Well, Russian President Vladimir Putin has made a rare trip abroad to meet Iran's supreme leader and the country's president. US intelligence says Moscow is on the lookout for combat drones to assist operations in Ukraine. But fears are they could also be discussing joint nuclear plans. Meanwhile, Ukraine's First Lady has pleaded for more weapons from the United States. Olena Zelenska has made a plea to the Congress and Senate to help Ukraine stop the terror.
I'm asking for something now I would never want to ask. I am asking for weapons. Weapons that would not be used to wage a war on somebody else's land, but to protect one's home and the right to wake up alive in that home. I'm asking for air defense systems in order for rockets not to kill children in their strollers.
Joining me now live from Ukraine is MP Inna Sovsun. Inna, good to see you again. The First Lady has to do all she can to keep the West focused on your plight, doesn't she? Because at the end of the day, the longer this goes, there is a greater chance of people losing focus on what we need to do to commit to you.
Yes, indeed. And I very much appreciate what the First Lady is doing. I think she became a very strong ambassador for Ukraine, for the interests of regular Ukrainians. And I think she, not being a politician, just a Ukrainian woman who sees the sufferings of other Ukrainian women, of children, of men, of elderly people, disabled people, everyone of those, she can explain that. She actually wrote a week ago, after the most recent hit in the Vinnytsia city, she wrote a message on her social media. She said that she suddenly realized that the small girl who was killed in that attack, she actually knew that girl because she recorded a video with her to attract attention to the kids with special needs, and that was a girl with the special needs, and she was in the video by the president's wife, by the First Lady, and that was a heartbreaking message from her. But I think that brings in the humanity and the humanitarian and humane side to all of this. So I think she's doing a great job in terms of explaining how this war is actually affecting the lives of regular Ukrainians and why the world cannot simply forget about what is going on over here in Ukraine.
Inna, explain to us what you think Vladimir Putin is up to, travelling to Tehran.
Well, apparently there are several reasons why he had to travel. First of all, I believe he has still to show that he is part of the international community, that he is able to travel and he has partners, while he is being isolated basically from the rest of the world. He only can meet the outcast countries like Iran. But I think for him personally, that was important to speak about, to show to the world that he still have the world leaders who are willing to meet with him. But also, of course, he needs some military assistance. Russian army is huge. They have lots of weapons, but they are lacking some materials and they are not able to produce new weapons right now because of the sanctions. So as you mentioned in introducing the topic, the issue of drones is important to the Russians right now. Ukrainians are managing to collect and to buy new drones for the Ukrainian army. The Russian army still have lots of their own drones, but they're running out of the materials that they can use, that they need to produce the new ones. So I think that can be part of the deal. As for the nuclear talks, I cannot comment on that. I am not sure about whether this was taking place, but I think that he was just seeking assurances from at least some leaders that he has support. And unfortunately got the support from the Iranian leaders who said that he fully supports what Russia is doing in terms of protecting Russian state and then supporting the strong and independent Russia, as if anybody was ever actually threatening the independence of Russia.
Yeah. A 16-year-old Ukrainian boy has detailed how he was held hostage by Russian soldiers for 90 days. Vladislav Buryak graphically described how other prisoners were being tortured in a nearby cell, people screaming in a room with bloodstains and soaked bandages. Here he is being reunited with his father. The another heartbreaking story. He's one of about 500 cases of civilian hostages. How dare they imprison and torture innocent people, Inna?
Yes, indeed. I remember the story when it just started because we learned about the story because he is the son of one of the local officials in the south of Ukraine. So when he was kidnapped by the Russians, that was on the national news. And I was thinking at that moment that this boy is 6 years older than my son. And I cannot imagine how his father was feeling, how terrified he must have been knowing that the Russians are keeping him. And they were not just keeping him in the, just travel to somewhere in Russia like they did to thousands of Ukrainians. They were actually keeping a kid, a 16-year-old kid, in prison, forcing him to clean up the mess after the tortures. He is reporting about, in the interview that he gave, he's telling about how he had to wipe up the blood stains from the floor, how he could hear people screaming, yelling from pain because the Russians are torturing them. Experiencing that when you are a grown-up person is painful enough. But when you are a 16-year-old kid, who would do that to a 16-year-old kid? How is that, in any sense, liberation of the Ukrainian territories and Ukrainian people, as Russians are claiming that to be? That is mere torture, violations of every single humanitarian law and international treaties that there are. And that is why we need to stop them. That is why we need the weapons to stop all of that from happening, because stories like this should never be happening in today's world. And the world cannot just keep pretending that this is not happening and not providing enough weapons to the Ukrainian army to stop all of that.
Yeah, there's more than enough evidence of war crimes, and hopefully we're gathering that information and something can be done when this is over. Inna Sovsun, keep safe. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. Unbelievable, really.